some latency there. Ooh, we are choppy tonight. I don't know about this, guys. Internet may have said no. Come on, catch up with me, guys. Whew. I don't know if that's just feedback from OBS or... Alright. I was going to go full screen on OBS and just check and see time to time. Alright. Alright. That may be because of the delay on the stream. Alright. We're switching it back to OBS. So make it full screen. My camera's in the damn way. Fit to screen. Too many options. Alright. Good. So no way to hide that. There we go. Alright. That's a little more manageable. Alright. So there's too much of a delay between the stream and OBS. That's probably my fault for not saying it correctly. But we're just going to go ahead and get started. It's like I assume everyone can hear me. The mic is giving me good feedback on the thing there. Alright. Alright, so I'm just going to assume everything's going to plan because I can't get back to my YouTube feed, the backdoor YouTube's streaming thing to see if there's anyone in chat because I can't figure out OBS's controls because I'm a boomer who doesn't understand things. And OBS has more controls than all of the goddamn rice in China. Yeah, I just said that. So, what the hell is this stream? For those of you who used to know me on my work with Etsy.com, I was into cosplay accessories. I would basically make like movie quality props out of Nerf guns, 3D printed items, various things of that nature. Well, just like every other one of my business ventures as an adult, it went into a flaming dumpster fire because I'm cursed by God. Um, the Normally I'm a very self-deprecating person, as you just heard. So I tend to think that things are always my fault when they go sideways. But with Etsy, I literally have a scapegoat this time. The former CFO of Amazon became their CEO and tried to make Etsy like Amazon. Amazon is a site for resellers. Etsy is a place for artists to sell their wares. Those two things are incompatible. The first thing he did when he took over Etsy.com was place a smug video about how he bought a belt from a leather maker in Juneau, Alaska, and he lives in Brooklyn. Well, I'm getting a text from my friend who's watching the live stream because that's the only way I could look at my comments, or anyone's comment. I need to go over Etsy because all of my subscribers know me from there. So I have to explain why I suddenly just went, dark and never, explained to anyone anything. Basically, Etsy changed and resellers were prioritized. And so people like me who made modest living off of it couldn't make a living off of it anymore because they changed the culture of the site. That being said, I can't access my Etsy account anymore because I owe them a crap ton of money for advertising. The problem is that from my viewpoint, if they're going to pay me, if I'm going to pay them for advertisement and they're also going to push me aside in favor of resellers, they're not really advertising me anymore, are they? They're deprioritizing me and asking me for money to put me back where I used to be in status from just being a good seller. So I'm semi-blocked from the back door of that. I can't access anything related to customer information, shipping, anything. So we're sort of like in a financial standoff on that. And I won't get into the weeds on that one. Because my friend is like, no, don't talk about Etsy. Don't talk about Etsy! So I have to. Because, like I said, the people who would be watching this who aren't my immediate friends don't know this. And they don't understand where it came from. Alright, alright. So screw Etsy. Let's talk about the future. I am reprioritizing only doing things of my own copyright, things I have created myself, and the only thing I can draw from is my book series, which I've been working off and on for about 15 years. Um, the I really wish I could access my YouTube backdoor. I don't know how to get out of full screen out of OBS. It's really annoying me. I hate the controls on this. Just press. I'm afraid to touch anything because it may stop the live stream. Transform. No. But the screen does not seem to work. Center screen. Does that get... Hold on. Let me switch to a different type of scene. Maybe I can... No, that just opened to the infinite void into oblivion. Sorry, everyone. You just saw the Chaos Gods for a second. I'm sorry. Because I can't figure out the damn controls. First live streams are fun, aren't they, guys? Especially when the guy live streaming doesn't know crap about anything. There we go. Okay. And bring that back up. And change scene again. F11, I could try it. Although I've got a sort of picture-in-picture thing going now, which I think I can work with. It's not doing anything. Okay. Let me change the scene again. Here we go. Here we go. Because now I can just minimize that. Okay, so this is my Amazon bookstore on Kindle. The problem is that when I uploaded new things recently, they're not showing here because I went under Arthur Allen McGowan to stand out more. Also, at my new job, I have to go by Arthur because there is already another Allen who's also a Matthew, but there was already a Matthew, so he had to change his name to Allen. That is annoying as shit. Everyone, just put a number behind my name. I really don't care if you put it. I will be Allen too. It's like having to go by my first name has completely screwed everything. Because now I have one title where I forgot to put the Arthur, and it popped up here. So let's talk about previous work briefly. Panjian Galactic History. It is a sci-fi universe that was based off a dream I had that was really vivid, where I was essentially teleported forcibly out of my bed to different planets and shown like different ways of life on these planets, giving absolutely no context otherwise. And from that I woke up and I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting dream. And from there, I sort of started this basis of a sci-fi series. Panjian Galactic History is the galactic history, so it is literally just the point where they make first contact and become intergalactic travelers of the Panjian. And you see it's not spelled like the supercontinent Pangea. It's a homophone. It sounds similar. There were several running themes in my book series. One is similar but different. When I first saw the landing on Titan and I saw the rivers and valleys of methane, and I'm like, that looks like Arizona with an orange filter. And it just clicked in my head. That's what everywhere is like. There are valleys and rivers on almost any planet or moon. They're just made of different stuff. So that was my aha moment of, you could have like a Star Trek or Star Wars universe in real life because everything is similar but different. Like, there might be alt humans who are just backwards to us genetically, but otherwise look perfectly identical. We know that's a thing that can happen. Scientists are afraid of it because you can create an alt-life bacteria in a lab, and it would be basically like our biological version of antimatter. Anytime it comes in contact with us, we self-annihilate. So that could be interesting. But there's all sorts of thought experiments and extrapolations that can come from just saying the general rule and concept of similar but different. Another thing which you'll see in my literary universe is am I dropping all the frame? Hold on. It's because I'm in picture mode. Yeah, yay! Okay, I'm not sure how to fix this. All the docs back. Okay, so got another friend on the live stream. How's it going? I'm trying to figure out OBS as we're going, and it's been an absolute circus. Y'all should be able to see what I'm seeing with commentary overlay right now. But the problem is I can't see OBS actively because it will create the infinite window thing. So I have no idea what y'all are looking at, but I'm looking at my Amazon page at the moment. And I need someone to give me some feedback because I can't also access... Hold on. Wow, that's really delayed. Okay. Am I even still streaming? Lower the record. Yeah, my bitrate sucks. Yes, I know. Uh, but anyway, um, back on PGH, it's similar but different. I wanted to create a universe that was not Earth-centric, because you don't see a lot of non-Earth or human-centric sci-fi. And I know that's for marketing reasons. No one wants to watch a blue square have a civil war with the green squares. Alright? I get it. But if everything is similar but different, then surely like Star Trek or Star Wars style aliens can be, relatable enough that you would give a damn. Like I'm remembered by the infamous meme line, "Many Bothans died to get you this information." What the hell is a Bothan? Like I literally had to get a Star Wars encyclopedia just to see what they look like. Spoiler alert: they look like a dude in a suit. Yeah, but that's the thing. You yeah, I know I need a second monitor for OBS. Yeah, and I need $1 million at the bank and a nicer house. Yeah. I might could use my digital drawing tablet as a second monitor. I just thought of that, but I can't mess with that while live streaming. Yeah, I can't be setting up my studio while using my studio. I'm not meta enough for that. PGH basically is a sort of a whirlwind, like putting a bunch of different ideas in a blender and seeing what comes out. Half the time it's inedible, but sometimes it's pretty good. Basically, starting with the basic story plot and premise. This is a very old race. The Panjians are true xenomorphs. They sample your DNA and then mimic you. That is not an invasive process like the xenomorphs you see. Xenomorph, by the way, is not a copyrightable thing. They want you to believe it is. It actually isn't. It's a scientific term. You can't copyright scientific terms. But let's say a tactile xenomorph, they have to touch you to sample your DNA. They're changelings. It's like the changeling mythos. They look like us, but they're in the uncanny valley. That is simply a survival tactic. It's not meant to be malicious, although obviously it could be used maliciously very easily for espionage, sabotage, murder, all sorts of heinous things, which is why we associate bad things with the changeling mythos. There's also the whole replacing your baby with one of theirs, like a mockingbird, or a cuckoo. That it's yeah. But I'm thinking to myself, why not make your titular race a little edgy to begin with? Like give someone a reason to invade their homeworld, because they might invade yours, and then once they're there, they could change to look like you. And oops, how do we tell, the Skittles from the M&Ms? Oh, this is a bad problem. Yeah, and there is a planet that happens that happens in the future. But that's getting further into the book. We need to set up the actual universe. Basically, this is a very old planet. It's full of exotic materials, and that was the original ethos for them being invaded by another species. Is they want this particular type of crystal called a graviton crystal. It is essentially, it warps space and time by changing its nuclear density and exposure to electromagnetic radiation. So basically, it's like the piezoelectrical effect with a crystal that it vibrates when you hit it with electricity, but instead of it vibrating physically, it literally alters its mass. So it can be used to make super efficient warp drives and hyperdrives or jump drives or anything that requires the warping of space and time. Of course, the Panjians have no clue what these crystals could possibly be used for, other than they call them sticky rocks because they gravitationally attract you like a magnet. They just attract to everything. For a long time, they used them in lieu of magnets because it was cheaper to mine them. So the setup is there was a world war on their homeworld, and here comes another idea that keeps reoccurring in my book series. It always comes down to two parties. What I mean by that is, once everyone has chosen a side, there's always going to be like an almost perfect 50-50 split, where you have diametric opposing ideas, ways of life, and agendas. Because of that, it's very difficult to achieve the next level of having like a planetary government or even a galactic government. I don't know if you guys watched the show The Foundation, which is really good, but based on Isaac Asimov, which I heard they got clearance to do iRobot as well. It's excellent. Chef's kiss. I am nowhere near that caliber of a sci-fi writer. And I think that's part of the problem is that you're expecting that really heady, like dense sci-fi, like Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, and I present you with Spaceballs with a light narrative, and then you're like, what the hell is this crap? And I'm like, well, I write to entertain myself first and audience second. That's part of the problem and always has been. Is that I tend, if you can see on my page here, I tend to misrepresent. Like, all of this looks really cool until you start reading it, and it's like, oh, this is... And then I see the one review here. We're going to go over that after all of this, but we need to set up the premise of the first book, for the first book of Panjian Galactic History. And I got a really gruesome, like, gunshot view there of a Drophy Marine getting splattered, as they call it, cut in half with hypersonic gunshots. Because I didn't know what to represent. Like, you wouldn't last 5 seconds by universe. I still stand by that. It's like that's literally how it felt for the initial Genesis dream of being teleported to these crazy worlds. It's like, yeah, if I just dropped you on one random alien planet in my book series, you'd be dead. First of all, you're probably allergic to everything, so you're going to swell up and just your throat close up, tongue swell up. You're going to die. Secondly, the locals will kill you because you're different. So, yeah, similar but different. It's fun. It's fun times. But basically, the Panjians had a war, a global war, and this is part of the problem is that I will go off on weird tangents, and it's, sorry, you just got to keep up with me. I may edit this to make more sense later on, but that's the problem, is that I'm just so schizo in the way my brain works. It's very difficult to catch that train of thought. That train of thought is a Japanese bullet train with no external handles. So yeah, you better be quick and have really good grip strength. There was two factions. It always boils down to two. There were the Technos. The Technos were very punitive, but very fair. They were a global republic. Basically, they were cultural jingoists. They would come in, it's like, you're going to be tech now. No, you don't understand. You're going to be tech now. And you're going to have a representative that you're going to give to our global senate, and where you get to be part of the decision-making process, because we're mean but fair. Well, that type of mindset has historically never gone down well with people who just want to be left alone. That would be the agrarian movement, or the agros. They are basically environmentalist terrorists, but really and truly they're just reactionaries. They are a group of people who just don't like the technos, or the techs as they refer to them. They think that to each their own, basic libertarian mindset. But the problem is that they have no set ideology. They're a group of ragtag patchwork people who all just agree, screw the techs, we don't like them. And so they're willing to do things that make no sense. Like they say they're agrarian in nature, but they don't start any farms or screw off and form communes. Like they go to inner cities and start telling everyone they're bad because they agree and follow the tech way of life. Yeah. In reality, like I said, they're just reactionaries. The whole agrarian thing, it was just a facade, because it's antithesis to the techs, because the techs are technological. They are a techocracy. They rule through basically a digital surveillance state. So their early internet, they had absolute control over it. They locked that crap down immediately, because they knew that, like here on Earth, it would be a decentralizing agent that would destroy their power base. It also helps that they developed it first for military use. So, yeah, win-win. The agros, again, are terrorists. Like, they will resort to bombing, poisonings, mass shootings. They don't give a shit, because they see themselves as victims of the encroachment of the techs. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, this sounds very, very, like, topical. No, it isn't. I wrote this down in PGH. Let's see, when it actually put us, May 2009 is the publication date. I had the manuscript in hand in 2007. I just did not have the balls to publicly present it because I knew people would tear it apart. And I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I know I suck at writing, so it's just gonna be like, oh, look at this crap. But I still put it out there eventually anyway because, like we're sitting here now, I would tell people about it, word of mouth, and they're like, oh, where are you published? And I'm like, well, I have this obscure like lulu.com account, so you could like print on demand, but they didn't want to do that because it was getting into the digital age at that time. People had Kindles. Kindles were all the rage in the late 2000s or 2010s. Sure, go 2000s going into 2010s. That weird sort of in between stage. So Kindles were really hot. I remember even seeing commercials on regular cable television for the latest Kindle. And I thought that was a little backwards advertising considering the Kindle is a superior device. But whatever. You gotta advertise the new to the old. Um, Part of the problem was I can't write for crap. I start with a premise, and then I try to establish a tone and a tenure, and then completely abandon it because I'll get drunk and start writing, and the next day I'm looking at this crap and editing it, and I'm like, oh my god, what was I thinking? So I'm trying to like rein it back, and it creates a problem in format. I would say it creates a very chaotic style of writing where it could be super silly one chapter, and the next it's like super hardcore, like grim dark 40k, skulls for the fucking skull throne. It yeah, it's all over the place. But in my latest graphic novels, just to back up there, which this one here is by accident because I misspelled. I'm eventually going to correct all that. Revenge of the Forsaken was something my mother wanted me to do. She's like, I want you to do a period piece set in your universe, so that limits you to a time frame. You're not spanning like the Bible, like hundreds and hundreds of years. Keep it one lifetime, keep it a simple story, and make it like something in the swashbuckling era, the pre-industrial era. There are guns, but they're not really a thing yet. There are still armored knights, but like Don Quixote, they're kind of old hat, but they're still around. And I'm like, for you, Mama, okay. And I created first with hand-drawn and literally blank graphic novel template books, which I didn't know were a thing. You literally can buy empty comic books with empty panels and just start drawing in them. And I'm like, this is great. But you can't really transfer that digitally unless you have a really big scanner. So I had bought a really big scan bed, like Epson printer, that also does bulk printing. It has tanks, not cartridges. And I thought, well, maybe I could just sell these one by one and print them out myself. But then the quality wasn't there. And I'm like, eh. And then Amazon just floated the idea to me, hey, we could do comics and graphic novels too. You just have to pre-edit it and make it nice as a PDF for our presentation, basically. In other words, if you do all the work, editing-wise, we'll publish your graphic novel. And I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me this sooner? Of course, I'm talking to an email because it's literally just an advertisement for a new service. But I'm like, I'm like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? I'm like, okay. Because I've always done graphic novel style, like little comics and stuff like that. They were tongue-in-cheek, political, or, don't ask me where they are. I've probably thrown most of them away. But with the Panjian Galactic History was the first time I tried to sit down and write a real novel. And it went off the rails because I tried to make it a history book, as per the name, Panjian Galactic History. It's a history book. It's a fake history book. The problem is no one got that vibe, so it was really terse and really dry. And I said it's the literary equivalent of trying to eat hardtack with nothing else. You're just going to break your teeth, and it'd be very, very dry and unpleasant. So I consider PGH to be my Silmarillion. It is my Establishing Universe document. And it is something you kind of have to know if you want Eighth Fleet Journal to make any sense, and something you definitely have to know if you want Revenge of the Forsaken to make any sense, because it's all in the same time frame of that book in that 2,000-year history. This is towards the middle, and this is modern times where they become spacefaring again, which we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to try a screen transition on OBS. I hope to God we could get this done. Oh my God. Alright, I'm a little off center. Hold on. I can fix that. Isn't green screen fun? Okay. Now I hope everyone can see that transition. Go on here. Yeah, YouTube is still giving me nothing to work with. I don't understand. Oh, probably did not need to fucking show that. Shit. Ah. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to work OBS on top of this, and I thought I flashed like private phone numbers there for a second. I've got Google Messages up on a tab as well, which I probably just need to go ahead and close that, so it's not anything I need to look at. I'm also having to deal with the lag of the feedback live from YouTube, because it has a built-in. It looks like a 10-second lag, or is that just? I have no idea. All right. Okay. Sorry, it's go back to OBS so I actually see myself. All right. So back on topic. I was checking to make sure I didn't, dox anyone's phone number, because again, OBS, you were hard to use. Um, PGH is a bad sci-fi novel, like just by every metric you can think of, except I will defend the premise. The premise, again, is similar but different. It is basically sort of Exodus from the Bible mixed in with like Battlestar Galactica, mixed in with They Live. It's a bunch of sci-fi and pop culture and cultural things that are similar and sort of just chucked in a blender, like I mentioned earlier. But that doesn't always mean it comes out tasting good. Individually, if you were to chop up PGH into their each perspective, like lifetime, and following, say, like one individual, like I did with Revenge of the Forsaken, it would be really good, I think. It's just that all at once, dry, and in the form of a history book, no lube, it's going to hurt. It is a bad read. But again, get back to the plot. Sorry, I keep squirreling away from it. So you have the agrarians, the agros, and the technos, the techs, as they call each other. They have a war. It's not a traditional war. It's a war of ideology. The techs lose because the whole you're going to be tech and you're going to be happy doesn't sit well. It's forcible cultural indoctrination. No one's okay with that. Cultural indoctrination, when you're growing up in your own culture, that's just that's par for the course. It's expected almost. But when it's forced down other people's throats, sometimes at gunpoint, it's not cool. And again, this isn't topical. This was all written in 2007 and finished in about 2008 and then published in 2009. I'm not going to call myself a futurist. I'm definitely not a fortune teller. I can't even read my own mind. But It's really disturbing, the correlations in my book series and recent events. Because the crescendo is, of course, aliens show up. So here we are. Yep, breaking news: we made first contact with aliens. Imagine waking up to your Google News feed and seeing that. Every single newscaster, even the individual pundits online. It's like, no, really, they're here. Here they are. It's like, first of all, there would be an army of people. Yeah, man, getting a little dry. I always love the green screen glitch, honestly. It's so weird. Green screens are so difficult to set up. But imagine that. You wake up, your first reaction is going to be, yeah, you got a bridge to sell me? It's like, it's going to be disbelief. It's like going to be like, are your ratings low? Is it that bad for you guys? Like, and then you're going to see a bunch of independent, like, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook videos, X. It's like, no, guys, they're here. It's like this. I'm just an individual. Why would I lie? So there's literally going to be a time period that the aliens could use to screw us over of disbelief. And you kind of see that in Independence Day, is like where they're setting up all their destroyer ships from the mothership. It's like everyone's reaction is like, why are we losing satellite feed? Why aren't we playing a Greatest American Gladiators right now? It's like, what? There's a huge ship hovering over every major city? Oh, so that's why we can't get American Gladiators. Oh. Aliens are here, I guess. It's going to be such a weird reaction. There will, of course, then be the day the Earth stood still. Let's surround them with everything that kills and hope they go away. And if they so much as sneeze or fart, we're going to blow them full of holes. If you think they have the technology to come all the way here, do you think they would not be prepared for that eventuality? But here's the thing. That's the 50s sci-fi. That really and truly, it's commie Red Scare propaganda bullshit. It's especially with the day the Earth stood still. If you remember, in their universe, all of those huge robots are basically like Judge Dredd and enforce law equally and unilaterally across the galaxy, which created peace. Yeah, everyone's real peaceful when you're aiming a gun at each other's balls. Yeah, everyone's super polite when everyone has a gun to the back of their head. Yeah. So what a horrible universe that is. It's basically him just coming to Earth to say, hey, we've been conquered by an AI that has a bunch of killbots threatening to kill us if we step out of line. We want you to be a part of that. It's like, no, how about you get back in your flying hubcap and fuck off? It's like, no. It's like, but here's the thing. When these aliens come down to Pangaea, on the surface they see the aggros, and they're doing their thing, being agrarian. The more militaristic ones died off because they don't know how to farm, ironically. The techs lived on in massive domes, deep underground military bunkers, which got expanded into underground cities. And because they have the technology to do so, they can hydroponically grow food. They can clone meat. It's like the agros can't do that crap. They got to stop back from basically Amish times, going from what was slightly more advanced than us. So they screwed themselves, basically, because they're terrorists, not farmers. And they wanted everyone on surface level of their propaganda to be like the Amish or Mennonites that just live in tune with nature. What it really is I hate the techs. I hate living as a tech. I hate participating in their bullshit global senate, and I want them very much to die or not be alive anymore. That was the real crux of it. And of course, you can't found a new civilization on a lie. So they had basically a deflation period where all the terrorists died off, because being a terrorist isn't profitable if there's no one to terrorize. All of the people you'd be terrorizing are the people who agreed with you and helped you overthrow the Techs. The Techs, meanwhile, are like, screw you, we're going to our underground bases, and we're going to expand into massive cities, and be done with you. We don't have to put up with your crap. We could live elsewhere. And at the time when these aliens showed up, the Techs had already had massive strides in shooting things into space. First, it was microsatellites, and then finally a manned capsule. And the aggros, looking back, would say, and sadly there are modern aggros, because this is all happening 2,000 years ago. So I need to prefix this. It's starting 2,000 years ago from our calendar. They were had just shot a manned missile into low orbit. They're Yuri Gagarin. And of course he was Tech, because the aggros aren't going to make a damn rocket out of wood. So, the aggros say, well, you brought these aliens here because they saw your space meddling. That's literally, it's not space exploration, it's space meddling. And so, of course, they're going to be like, oh, well, you made strides into space, we're going to make first contact. And the problem is, from these aliens' point of view, they refer to themselves as with a nom de guerre. It's the Ancient Ones. We are the Ancient Ones. We are the oldest race in the galaxy. That is, of course, a lie. There is no way to prove that. The galaxies are incredibly old. And it's something you just proclaim yourself. It's like saying you're a member of International League of Assholes. How do you become a member? You just declare yourself one. So the Ancient Ones, of course, are very friendly. They're not jingoistic. They're not here to, rape your crops or pillage your women. No, they're sophisticated. They're like Space Jesus. They have all the answers. In reality, they're grifters. They are very much based on the aliens from the movie They Live. They are predatory capitalists. What they do is they come into they make first contact. Everyone's super friendly, super nice, super helpful, but they never answer direct questions. Nor do they give you any technology that could be used against them. So, over time, we're talking like span of like maybe 50 to 60 years, the Ancient Ones ingratiate themselves onto Pangaea. Meanwhile, they have these other Pangians that will come up like dickbags and be like, what star are you from? What part of the galaxy are you from? How do your ships fly? And at this time, there was no difference in race between the aggros and the Techs. They were all Pangians. They were sort of just unilaterally. Some of them had different skin tones. Some of them had pointed ears. Some of them didn't. By different skin tones, I mean gray to green, not earth tones like us. That's also why we're earthers. We are earth tone colored. But that's also what they call us when they make first contact with us eventually, the Pangians. That's going to happen. It's already canon. I just haven't published it yet. Is they refer to us as Earthers, not Earthlings. And the reason they don't call us Earthlings is because every alien that shows up in movies from Hollywood that call us Earthlings die horribly. So, or otherwise the bad guy. So they're like, no, we're just going to call you Earthen or Earthers. Is that alright? But, back to this main story. The Ancient Ones are nice. They're friendly. They're helpful. They help you build things really quickly with their technology. The aggros are now looking like hypocrites. Because remember, one of the main problems they had with the Technos, or the Techs, was that they were too technological. They carry around little computers in their pocket. Like, they're just addicted to technology. Some of them have, God forbid, cybernetic implants to, like, help them walk or see. Like, or hear. It's like, no, you're supposed to be deaf. That is your plot in life. So, them accepting this technology from the Ancient Ones without even asking so much as a question made them look like a bunch of damn hypocrites in the eyes of the Techs. And the Techs are like, hey, why aren't you questioning them? And they're like, well, they give us free crap. You never gave us free crap. You always told us we had to earn our way. Like, it's like, you're just jealous. They like us more. And the Techs are like, Jesus Christ. Okay. So, every once in a while, the ancients would encounter a Panjian that they would call problematic. They come up and ask questions they don't want to answer. And remember, at this time, there's no real difference between the surface and the under the surface-dwelling agros and the under subterranean techs. They are virtually identical. When the tech goes to the surface, and that would happen from time to time, they are expected to make themselves technologically take away all. You don't bring your cell phone, don't bring any cybernetic implants you might have, even if they're useful. So you may have to like walk around on a peg leg, but you're allowed on the surface. It isn't like if the techs come up from the holes in the ground like a bunch of troglodytes that the agros are going to like kill them with shovels or something. Like no, it was a very very bitter but temperate peace for a long time, because they're family that are divided between those lines. There are tech families who half of them are on the surface and they agree with the agros, the other half are down below where they belong. But they would like intermingle. It's just if you came to the surface, you had to take away all your technology. You couldn't bring it with you, especially guns. They were not cool with you bringing guns to the surface for obvious reasons. So the ancient ones, they help you build things, space docks, so more of them can come to your planet, and other people can come to your planet to say hi and to buy stuff. Allegedly. Basically, the ancient ones were there for the sticky rocks. Remember the sticky rocks, the graviton crystals I was talking about earlier? Yeah, they want those. They want a lot of them. They want all of them. And one day, they ran out because it's an exotic, naturally occurring element. They're very rare. And the Panjians are like, well, we don't have any more. Like, so what are we going to do? The ancient ones are like, well, all of these building projects we've done for you, like monetarily wise, are way more than what you've, dished out in exchange for these crystals. I tell you what, how about you have a percentage of your population work for us, making things to sell to other people, to pay back your debt. Indentured servitude. And of course, the agros feeling guilty for accepting all these great, wonderful things, and then not being able to pay them off are like, okay. And the techs are like, literally screaming from the depths, like, do not agree to that. You are dumb. Do not do that. So the techs basically realize that the agros have betrayed them once again, and if there's anyone going to save the homeworld, it's going to be them. So, a group of senators, and they are reoccurring titular characters. They were eventually referred to as the old families. Prepare yourself. One of them is a self-insert. The families were the Kuliks, the Kolks, and the McGowans. Yes, I use my own surname. It's my book series. I can insert myself anywhere I want. I actually have 3 insert characters. Gowan the Great, which is the one I just mentioned, he was the one who instigated instigated/conspirized with the other 2 senators to basically embezzle taxpayer funds to make spaceships based on the Ancient Ones technology that they've been stealing in secret. Because the techs aren't dumb. They've been spying on the Ancient Ones this whole time. And they realized that they're going to screw us at some point. And then when that come to pass, they're like, yeah, here it comes. So they built 2 large arc ships called the Humble and the Avetta. No one knows what happened to the Avetta. It went off in an opposite direction because that was the plan. The Humble, we know what happened to it because their descendants are the ones writing the history book that is Panjian Galactic history. Basically, as time went on, the agros became more and more indentured servants to the Ancient Ones. And in their language, the Ancient Ones' language, they were called Norqua, which means worker. And it has a demeaning tone to it for a reason. It's basically one step above a serf or a slave. It's an indentured servant, essentially. So everyone had to start working for these assholes. And the techs are still like, why? You outnumber these guys like 100 to 1. Like, the techs are just sitting there in their bunkers, just absolutely perplexed at why the aggros are suddenly being submissive. And the reason is because the aggros think that the Ancient One's technology is so great that even the techs can't copy it. Which the techs are like, no, we've been copying this whole time. We haven't been telling you because you don't care about technology. That was kind of your thing. So, one day there is a labor riot in one of the vast factories that the Ancient Ones so kindly and graciously built for the Panjians to work in to pay off their debt. And the techs, being sneaky little bastards, found out that they were suppressing the Panjians' natural ability to doppelgang and to change, because they're changelings, or haptic xenomorph is the term I would use, using a nitrogen compound in their food and water. They were essentially poisoning them. Sort of a chemical castration, lack of better terminology. But reversible, with the right nutrients. So the techs took over the dining facilities of all of these factories and started introducing the counter agent, the antidote, to the workers, unbeknownst to them. So, when one of the workers, Seven Krent, was not making his quotas and he was being objectionable, saying things like, the workload's unfair, I can't keep up, this is not, this is not what we agreed to. He was publicly lashed by the Ancient Ones. Because at this point, it's full mask off, we own you. They also introduced this compound into the Panjians' food supply. So many Panjians realized very quickly they can't mutate anymore. So they are essentially just locked into a flesh prison like the rest of us. Yeah. That is, again, temporary and reversible. So, as they're whipping Seven Krent, he starts developing bony scales on his back, to just like the X-Men Darwin, because that's essentially the same power set. And they're like, oh crap, why are they mutating? Suddenly, the Pangeans realize they can mutate. And if they can mutate, some of them are metamorphic, and with enough concentration, they can grow poisonous quills, spikes, basically anything any animal could do. Shoot electrical impulses like an electric eel. Yeah, so it was a major riot. A lot of Ancient Ones died because they're little dudes in comparison to the Pangeans. The average Pangean was about 6 foot at that time. Average Noversani is actually the star they're from. They're the star Nover, but they call themselves the Ancient Ones because they don't want you to know where they're from. Nor is it important. You've been targeted. Their average height was about 5'5". They're little dudes, and they kind of look like space Smurfs. They're blue, and they have blonde hair and really black, soulless eyes. And see, this is the stuff I never get into in the sea. Yeah, this is really the average Pangean. Like I said, mentioned they have a color scheme more like a dark elf. They go from like charcoal gray to like really white, like white face, like clown white. And they sometimes have pointed ears, sometimes they do not. They're not exaggerated like you see in WoW, where it's like out to here. That's ridiculous. Nor is it even as intense as the average Vulcan or Romulan. I feel as though they made those a little too intense over the course of the series. If you look back at Leonard Nimoy's original prosthesis in TOS, especially the first episode, versus, say, like the movie era, I know they kept the same mold over time, but I swear to God, either Leonard's ears got longer or those prostheses got taller. Maybe a combination of both, but you can see a gradual increase of the point over time, which I thought was extremely hilarious. It probably is that Leonard's ears were just getting longer from age. But I also did not like how they put the angry brow on the Romulans to tell them apart. That's the point. That was the point of the Romulans, is that if they get stoic and start talking like this, you can't tell if they're Vulcan or not. Especially if they have a stupid bang haircut. It's like, yeah, that's the whole point. It's like, just like with the Pangean infiltration, if they mimic you and start acting like you, they could destroy you from the inside out. That was the whole threat of the Romulans, and they completely just neutered that by giving them angry face. Angry face because they're bad people. I swear to God, some of these writers are like they just get them out of preschool. but at the same time, it's like they say my sci-fi is crap because it's so erratic. Like, at least mine makes sense if you put it out in a linear story fashion, which I just can't seem to do because I'm too goddamn scatterbrained. But anyway, so describing the Panjians and the Novasani, it's a distraction. That's why I don't put it in my book series a lot. It's something the reader would want to know, but that's why I like graphic novels instead now. Is because I can just show you what they look like. I don't have to spend 3 pages describing like what the different types of Pangians and different types of Novasani look like. Like, see what I'm saying? To me, it's a waste of time as an author. But that is the crap that is missing that makes my books suck. And it's like, I get it. But at the same time, it's just not. It's such a distraction. Like I say, it's already distracted me. I'm already going off a tangent about it. But there was a huge labor riot. The underground techs were like, right, this is the time to strike. We got our 2 starships ready to go, fueled up. We're going to go in opposite directions to maximize our chances of escape. But even though the Agros, now the Norqua, have betrayed us twice, we will still offer them safe harbor off of the planet if they want it. So, the techs show up in mass with military force. They finish off their few overseers that were in this factory, and they offer the Norqua a ability to go on to the Humble and get off the planet. Half of them were like, no, screw you, we belong here. We're going to retake our homeworld. We're like, okay, whatever. Good luck with you. The others, about, say, 200,000 of them, the ships can carry about 1 million people each. They're like, okay, but we're going to have to set some ground rules if we're going to be long-term in a ship with you guys. First of all, no more of this tech bullshit. The techs are like, no, we are offering you passage out of the kindness of our hearts. We built this ship. We spied on the Ancient Ones like you should have to steal their technology. We reverse engineer their technology. Like, if you're going to come on this ship, the Humble, you're going to live as techs. You're going to live under tech law. You're going to respect the tech hierarchy. All of that good stuff. You will essentially be tech while you're on this ship. Now, once you leave and form your own colony elsewhere, if you choose to do so, you're free to do whatever you want. You can go back calling yourself Norqua, the Agros, whatever the hell you want to call yourselves. And so long as you're not bothering us, we'll leave you alone. We'll even let you off on your own planet if you want, just to be away from us. But while we're underway, you're under tech law, because this is a tech ship. And you will hear that multiple times throughout the revisiting of the Humble and its crash and then resurrection. So they're like, they begrudgingly agree. They all get aboard the ship and they haul ass out of the solar system. They were expecting a massive blockade, because why not? Like, why you weren't letting your slaves escape? And only to realize there's nothing out there stopping them. It's like, what? So we could leave this whole time? No, you can escape, but you can't leave the Ancient Ones. You see, they exert soft power over 1/3 of the galaxy. Economic power. If you want to trade, you have to use their trade routes because they're the safest. Because they also secretly fund pirates that will raid your crap. So there is only one option for safe shipping intergalactically. It's the Ancient Ones, the Novasani. Their planet and civilization is one massive corporation. If you violate the terms of service, they'll cut your planet off, and you're free to do whatever you want on your planet, but your planet becomes a prison. If you leave your solar system for any reason, then they'll use military force against you, and then you're probably going to lose. But with escaped indentured servants like this, the first thing is to let them realize that, first, there is no escape, and secondly, you're going to come back to us willingly, because there is no escape. The Panjians went underway, would encounter other advanced civilizations nearby, and they're like, can you please grant us safe harbor? You know, you could put us on an island by ourselves somewhere. We can mutate to adapt anywhere, even places you would consider toxic. And they're like, we can't help you. And they're like, why? So because the Ancient Ones will punish us if we do. 13 times, 13 different planets, advanced civilizations, thousands of light years away from each other, all saying the same thing. If we help you, they will punish us. And that's when the Panjians realized, oh crap, they control everything. Probably the whole galaxy, we don't know. But we've now gone to 13 different planets that are as far away as we can possibly get from our homeworld. And they're all telling us, shut up, go back home, maybe they'll forgive you. We can't help you, sorry. Imagine that. It's not a dark forest scenario where you have like some belligerent race that controls everything, threatening to like Death Star your planet. It's the cool ambivalence of, sorry, that's not my purview. Sorry, I'm not qualified to give you that answer. Sorry, I can't help you. Otherwise, my higher-ups will punish me. That's the insidiousness of the Ancient One. They weaponize friendship and capitalism until they own you. Now, if you're thinking, that sounds an awful lot like the East India Trading Company. Yeah, it is. If they done their crap correctly and weren't, so heavy-handed with it. If they were a little more insidious and mafioso than they were, and didn't try to become a global government in the golden age, they might still be around. And I think a few corporations actually can trace their lineage to the East India Trading Corporation to this day. But yeah, imagine that on a galactic scale. Like, there is no Star Destroyers patrolling. There's a bunch of cargo ships going back and forth, but they're automated. You don't need to have people aboard. It's a tedious job. You just got to, have it not fly into crap. We have cars that can do that now, most of the time. But yeah, if they just economically control all these planets through trade and can cut you off like that, they don't need to chase you down. You'll either die in space, or you'll come back to the homeworld and ask for forgiveness. And that's exactly how they operate. Well, Senator McGowan the Great, his first name is Grant, was like, screw that. We're not doing that. We didn't do all of this to tuck our tails between our legs and go home and ask for forgiveness from people. We don't owe a damn thing. We don't owe the Ancient Ones a damn thing. Like, we're techs. We never made a deal to mine graviton crystals. The aggros did. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hyperjump off of a black hole and go to another galaxy using the velocity jump gained by slingshotting off the black hole. No one had ever done that before. It's hypothetical. Like, his scientists are literally screaming like, we told you that basically as a false option. You weren't supposed to choose option C, dude. So he's like, no, it's do or die time. So, with 1 million people on board, under his and the other senators' direct purview, or governance, he ordered a jump off of a black hole aimed for the galaxy that we would call Andromeda. All this happens in the local group, but not in the Milky Way. They don't reach the Milky Way until much further in the future. And that's because of us. They like our television programming. It's like we're an entertainment planet, is what they call us. But that's way in the future. So they come to the edge of Andromeda, and a lot of the races they encounter are really primitive. They're like in Stone Age period, medieval age. They're like, we can't really like land on these planets. They're gonna become like cargo cults. It's like, yeah, they're gonna worship as gods, and that's hypocritical since we're trying to get away from people who are like that. It's like, so they encounter one planet called Korak, and Korak is a hellhole. It is desert. Think like Arrakis, but with nothing there of any interest. There is no spice. Yeah, there are no frenin. There are no sandworms. It's just a bunch of sand. And it gets everywhere. It's gritty. So, the Norqua, after this Hail Mary attempt that did work, it did work. they got to another galaxy. They're like, screw you guys, you techs are crazy. Half of us won't off. You promised you let us off. We can adapt to live on Korak. We're gonna go down there. And the techs are like, you sure? Like, we can find you a better planet. They're like, no, right now. We're activating the escape clause. And they're like, okay. So they set about half of the Norqua down on Korak with supplies, tools, communications in case they change their mind. And they went looking for a new homeworld again. And 2,000 years later, when they resurrected the Humble, they went looking for Korak. And it wasn't there. The whole planet disappeared. So that's sort of like their Roanoke. They have a lost colony of Panjians. They're like, no clue what happened to them. We let them down. Like, we gave them everything they needed to survive. They had the ability to mutate to survive the local environment on top of that. They should still be there. It's just the whole damn planet's gone now. They later find out what happened to that planet, unfortunately. But that's spoilers, and I'm not going to tell you that. Okay. So, they're getting low on fuel. And they come up on this rather large globe. It's about, say, 5% larger than Earth. And it's got a binary star system. And it's got a little forest moon with primitive little alt-humans on them. And these alt-humans have, again, this was before anything topical, and it doesn't mean anything, different rainbow-colored hairs, depending on their race. Yeah. Again, not alluding to any particular thing in modern times. This was written over a decade ago. But that is how they differentiated their race, was their hair color, not necessarily their skin color. And the local flora and fauna is what causes that color change. So when you move, you don't keep your color, you integrate, and it will sort of like do a half and half thing. And then as it grows out, you'll become that new color from eating the local flora and fauna. And when they leave Tauren, is the name of this moon. They named it Tauren because in Panjian it means blue or blue-green, because it's like a forest moon, it's blue-green. They named it before they knew there were people there, by the way. When they lose that dye, the discoloration in their hair, it just turns back to normal, like, earthen colors. Sometimes you'll have like a really platinum blonde, and that tends to be like the more vibrant Tauren hair colors, like red or orange, things of that nature. The darker color is like green, purple. That when they lose that coloration, it's going to be more like a brunette color. But you could tell these all humans from regular Earth humans in that they have a functioning appendix. Don't know why. And when I say as an author, when I say I don't know why, that's adding lore and world building. Because it's sort of like, why, you're the author, why don't you know this? And they're like, because it's interesting. It's just something that makes them different. Also, I think no one really knows what the appendix originally did. I always thought it was like a second gallbladder, but apparently I was wrong in that assumption. And their hair follicles are hollow, whereas ours are solid. The only other animal on Earth that is like that is polar bears, and they can turn green or yellow because of, I think it's actually chlorophyll that fills that void, so that they have like a growth in their hair that turns them green. And that was the original concept of that. It's like, okay, I want alt humans. I want them to be just different enough that you can tell, like with scientific study, that they're different. And it just sort of went from there. And I didn't mean it to happen, but the Taurens have sort of become the anime Canadians of my sci-fi political structure. They're the ones that are more reasonable than the Panjians, but that live next to the Panjians, so they also kind of use the Panjians as a threat. It's like, would you rather want to deal with us or the Techs? Your choice. It's like, but yeah, I didn't mean for them to come like that, but they kind of happened. There's also another moon called Zira, and there is a large planet sort of in between, sort of like a large Venus called Ath. And there are several other gas giants in the Elder system I haven't named yet because I'm lazy. Because I learned when doing Dungeons and Dragons, when you're even in a small group of people and you say, oh, there's like 5 people in a bar, you bet there's going to be one a-hole who goes up to every single one of them to introduce themselves, so they force you, the DM, to make up a name on the spot. Yeah, so I've started doing that in my writings, just sort of fill in the gaps, because there's always going to be that one dude who's like, are there any other planets in this system, and what are their names? It's like they don't really want to know, they're just trying to annoy you, I swear to God. Um, Now, the Humble was running out of fuel. Back to the story. They see this planet that they briefly named Pangaea 2. Because, you know, yeah. And they're like, okay, we're out of fuel, guys. So if we stop here, we may be able to go to one other system nearby and back, and that's it. And then word of mouth got from the bridge to the people that we're out of fuel, and there's no source nearby that we know of to replenish it. Everyone's like, okay, well, this is it. So they all started gathering their crap up and like lining up and forming formations to exit the ship, because they think, well, we're just going to go to this planet and live there. The problem is that this has a very thick nitrogen atmosphere along with oxygen, and nitrogen compounds in Pangeans over time poison their ability to mutate. So the Kuliks, Senator Kulik, Kolk, and McGowan are like, look, or Gowan. They later changed it to McGowan. Mick and Gaelic mean son of. We can't really settle here long term. Like we'll lose our ability to mutate. It may even stagnate our ability to mutate to the point to where we can't breathe the air anymore. It's like, or the local flora and fauna may be toxic to us, which normally we could adapt to that, but not if there's a bunch of nitrogen in the air. So while they're like hesitating as to whether or not to land, a large group of people who had heard the scuttlebutt were preparing in the rear cargo bay to offload, because we got nowhere else to go and no fuel to get there. Why not? So a group of agitators led by the same Savin Krent that was the catalyst for the label riot earlier was like, look, we don't trust the techs not to immediately like enslave us the second they get, because they're going to need people to build warships to go back and take their homeworld. That's the plan. We all know it's the plan. They're techs. They're warlike. So let's use the ship's replicator and make a bunch of parachutes. And when they go to descend, they won't have the fuel to chase us all down, and do a high altitude opening and just float down. And hopefully we'll be able to mutate in time before any type of toxin gets us. Well, replicators require a lot of power. And what's the one thing that they're low on right now? Power, i.e. fuel. So, as they're cautiously going through this turbulent atmosphere of Pangaea 2, the Agros start forced to open the door of the rear cargo bay, which you see in Revenge of the Forsaken, and actually in that one, Truth, that I showed you earlier. Massive door. It's like a 500-meter door. It's a massive steel door. So, a lot of people got sucked out from the atmospheric differential who did not have parachutes. They died. The rest of them, thankfully, were in a separate cargo bay, and because they were not staging up to leave, because they were waiting for further orders, like good tech should. Just because you heard that, hey, we found a place and we're low on fuel, does not mean we're stopping here. So the Agros started forming chains of families and people who were, friends, and forming jump chains and just going out thousands and thousands of people just leaving by parachute from this slowly descending starship. This is not a hot re-entry like you think of, or like Apollo capsule. This is a very slow, deliberate descent. This is a massive ship. So they're definitely using anti-gravity or negative energy of some sort to do this. Jumping off the ship and replicating the parachutes to jump off the ship drained the resources. All of a sudden, the ship didn't have the power to compensate for the high winds at the jet stream level. And this particular planet has a really powerful jet stream. It's like 300 miles an hour. So, the Humble started to spin. And when it did so, more people died. On the bridge, they're frantically trying to get everything under control. Finally, they managed to control with attitude rockets, old school rockets, to get the Humble to right itself, but it's nose down. So, the techs go down with the ship. Thankfully, there is just enough energy to G-force compensate so that they did not become spam in a can and had to be squeegeed off the bulkheads. That does not mean they were not injured. Remember, in Star Trek, when they get thrown around, the amount of G-force that was compensated for by the inertial dampeners was immense. There, the crew is just getting like what the little tail bit that's left over. They still need to wear some damn seatbelts though. And wear some goddamn impact armor, like a helmet or something. It's just me. So, for the next 2,000 years, thereabouts, the Humble was lawn darted into the ground. Hold on, I'm going to use a prop real quick. Look around here, something vaguely ship-shaped. Okay, so this spray ball here, about that angle, darted into the ground, and that's actually a really good representation right there, how far the nose went in. It went in so deep that the rear cargo bay became essentially a makeshift door and a gangplank for people to exit the ship who survived. Now, when they landed on this new planet, Panjian 2, it's a beautiful place. Forests, massive trees. Think like redwood trees, but like twice as big. But what is the name of that oldest redwood? Is it Gargantua or something like that? It's allegedly like the biggest tree on Earth, and they keep it secret on Google Maps because they don't want you going there and fucking with it. They got a whole forest of those guys. And they look around, and they're still dazed and bewildered, and sort of crawling around because the gravity is a little more intense, being larger than their homeworld. So they're sort of scrambling around all fours, badly injured, looking up at this massive forest. And swooping down from the trees comes a huge megaraptor. Think like a crow the size of a Cessna. Big, big bird. Big, dinner plate size eyes. Peering down at you like, you look tasty. Starts pecking at Gawain the Great. And in that moment, in panic, he reaches out and grabs its talon, its claw, and mutates feathers on top of his head and around his face, like a beard. Basically, everywhere humans have hair, these new Hasian Panjians, as they will be called, have feathers. The techs are black because they mimic the Megaraptor, the black feathered tech Hasian. Their feathers, as they age, will get gray and, of course, less fluffy. Panjians don't really show age on their face, but they do get a series of worry lines right before death, say like within a decade of death. They're sometimes referred to as a death till. In other words, I can see on your face you're not going to live very long. Panjians also have a very bad habit of like randomly dying while doing things. Very rarely do they like die in their sleep because they feel perfectly fine until they're not, and then it's like, yeah. Whereas humans, it's more of a gradual decline. Also turns out that with this new genetic information came knowledge of their primitive Megaraptor language. They have a very simplistic language. It has about 500 words. And instinctively, Gawain looked up and basically said, "Don't kill me." And this raptor is like, okay. So he tried to explain to this Megaraptor, like, hey, we're from a different planet, and we can't go back. Like, we're here permanently. And it says that its name is Glane of Blue Rock. And it's like, uh, you, uh, you can stay here as long as you want. I mean, we can't really kick you off. It's like, you're already here. So, but Glane took Gawain the Great to see their king of their Hazians, is what they call themselves. They are basically hyper-intelligent birds who live in these trees. And they have a written language. They call them scroll trees, where they dig with their talons a written, like, cuneiform style language into these ancient trees. So they have a journal of what happened before. And they write down that, hey, this metallic rock fell from the sky. These little people came out of them, and they changed to look like us. Now, when Gawain II first mutated, he grew wings like an angel, because he was trying to mimic the Haziah fully, and that means your arms are going to shrink a little bit, and you're going to grow some wings. Because of the nitrogen in the atmosphere, that was stopped. So all Panjians exiting the Humble now have wings that are kind of useless. They look cool, but you can't really fly with them. And so a lot of them would just demutate them. They would sort of just focus their mind and just, they would sort of just grow back into the back. Because they're useless. I mean, it's better to be a humanoid without wings that are floppy and you can't really fly with them. But that started a legend later on, and that's mentioned in the Revenge of the Forsaken, that Pangeans used to have wings, but they lost them somehow. Because they didn't understand that with practice and meditation, they can control their powers to a certain extent. It's not like Odo from DS9 where they can become a chair. Like, that's ridiculous. But they can, like, mimic us or mimic any humanoid race very easily. But the Hazians was a bit of a stretch because they're so anthropomorphically different. There also is a mass difference. And even when a Pangean does fully mimic a Hazian, they can't mimic the hollow bones, and they still can't fly. They're just sort of like a bad copy. They're also a bit tinier because of the mass difference. But they met with the King of the Hazians, and they made a pact. It's like, you guys are more than welcome to stay here. As long as you don't displace us, don't kill us, don't eat us. Like, we're not chickens. We're, giant intelligent birds. But you got to defend us from other people like yourselves. So, like, if another alien race shows up, hey, take care of that. That was the pact. And from that day on to this day, the techs still guard the Hazians, like, fiercely. Like, if you tried to, like, go Predator style and, like, go into the Hazian woods, I'm going to bag a giant Mega Raptor. Like, no, you ain't. Techs are going to hunt you down. And, they're not going to let you do that. Like, it's like, your advanced technology, that's cute. Yeah. It's like, you're one dude with a cloaking shield. Like, we're going to find you. Especially nowadays. Oh yeah, I would love to make a short movie of Predator versus the Techs trying to protect the Hazians from the Predator. Predator would be so shocked at how easily he gets his ass handed to him. But beyond that, they show Gawain the Great this big field next to the forest. And it's not too terribly far away. It's quite a walk, but originally in the book I had them soar there, but I'm like, the wings aren't really useful, and if you tried soaring with those wings, you kind of just go and just fall. So instead I'm just going to retcon it right now and said they walk there, even though it's quite a walk from the Humble crash site to the valley that would become Eusolyces, the city-state. But they're shown this great valley, and it's overlooking sort of like a Mount Fuji, like big mountain called Mount Zirid. And they said, you can have this. This is all yours, Just don't make a mess. And that formed the first city-state of Eusolyces. And and Panjian means new. And Eusolyces was the biggest capital underground city on the homeworld. So they're making a new Eusolyces. Eusolyces is above ground. it does have underground infrastructure. A lot of it, like New York or Chicago does, is sort of a layer cake. Actually, archaeologically speaking, the further down you go, the more interesting it becomes. But for the most part, it's just a regular mega city nowadays. Back then, it would start out as a little village. And that's when they started to discover that the Hazians may be friendly, but everything else on this planet is not. This is a death world. Just because you made friends with the apex predator doesn't mean the mid-range predators don't want to eat you. That following night, they encountered the Eep. And Eep, God, I should have made a graphic. I wasn't expecting to get this far into it. Oh, of course. Randomly destroy my studio. There we go. Okay. What is an Eep? What is a velociraptor? You think you know the answer to that question because of Jurassic Park. The reality is you don't. An Eep comes from a scientifically accurate 3D rendering I once saw of what a real velociraptor would look like, probably. It has a body covered in feathers and arms covered in feathers. It has a crest of feathers, like a horse's mane or like a dragon. And it is much beefier, and its skin is grayish green to blend in with the background. Its feathers are black, and it has a little rat tail that it whips around, and sets of claws on both little hands and long feet. Terrifying! So Eeps are velociraptors that hunt in packs. Although at this time they did not hunt in packs exclusively because they didn't need to. The Panjians culling over the centuries made them more predatory like that. So you had a mixture of regular Eeps, pack Eeps, and you had mega Eeps that were the size of, like, say, I don't know, like a small horse. Yeah. It's basically terror birds. They don't fly, but they run really, really, really fast. And because they're camouflaged with black and green feathers, they look like a bush until they jump out at you. The only warning you get is the sound they make to coordinate their attack, which is what they're named after. Eep. If you hear that, followed by eep, 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 from different directions, I can't get a register high enough. My sister does a really good impression, but it's way higher than that. So imagine like 2 octaves higher. If you hear that, you're screwed. But you are surrounded by Eeps. You are about to get torn apart. Because they coordinate their attacks using that call. They also have several other calls. A long rolling E is a challenge to an alpha in the area by another alpha. So it's like basically come at me, brah. And when that happens, prepare to fight a male Eep, because he's going to come for that ass. He's going to tear it up. Eeps are nocturnal, and they have really good night vision. So, let's just look at the scoreboard here. They are about the size of a large dog. They hunt in packs. They can sometimes be mega Eeps, the size of a small horse. They hunt at night. They're camouflaged by their feathers. And until they decide to attack, they're pretty much silent. A lot of people died. Thankfully, the Eeps found out that Panjian flesh is toxic, and they can't eat it. But that doesn't keep them from trying. So, they had to protect their early settlements with Eepers. And these are people who would wear essentially wicker armor and stone spears because they got thrown back to year 0. At first, they had a few holdover firearms, but those ran out of ammo. And how are you going to make more ammo if the ship is broken? Like, you can't replicate more ammo. You didn't bring any tools with you to reload the ammo because you have a replicator. Why would I need to be reloading equipment if we have a replicator? That is a trap of advanced technology. If it's so convenient that you can't do without it, then when you're without it, you're going to suffer nothing but inconvenience. Much like on Snowpiercer, where they say something is extinct, that's essentially what happened with their ammo supply. It just went extinct. And Because they're so damn fast and so hard to see, Eeps tend to be very bullet spongy. Unless you see them coming, and like say like with a thermal optic of some sort, and snipe them one by one, you're going to spray and pray a lot into the darkness. And that's essentially what happened. They especially like going after women and children because they're smaller targets. So the Eeper was absolutely a necessary first job, and it is a very Hazayan job. It's only a job that happens on Hazaya. You do not have Eepers on Earth. There's no, I mean, you could have people who protect like cattle and stock, and for wildlife, people who hunt coyotes or wild pigs. It's not the same thing. It's like as you're hunting the Eeps, they're hunting you. This isn't a case of we're going to go in the forest and cull the Eeps. It's we're going to patrol around our area defensively and hope the Eeps don't come tonight. So the Eepers in the beginning were armed with guns. Bullets became extinct. Body armor degrades as it's worn. Eventually, they had to start using stone spears and wicker armor because that's the only thing they could know to make. And thankfully, Eeps, like a lot of animals, have a fear of fire. So a torch is a necessity for two reasons. One, so you can see them, and two, it keeps them a distance away. Sometimes they would form fire rings around the big huts where they would sleep and just keep burning pitch the whole night just to keep the Eeps away. Eventually, as the Panjians got better technology, they were able to cull the Eeps, especially the mega Eeps. They were a real problem. But the smaller, weaker Eeps that hunted packs became dominant, and that actually made them more dangerous because now they can coordinate. The mega Eep doesn't care. Like it's going to like tear right into your little hut and like eat you in front of your family because it can. Whereas the smaller Eeps know that individually they probably couldn't take down a Panjian. Panjian's pretty strong, pretty tough, and until they succumb to blood loss, they're going to be swinging and kicking. But if we have 5 Eeps attack from every direction at once, then we can get the kill. But again, Panjian flesh is toxic to them, so give and take. Alright. As the Norqua expected, the original plan was not told to anyone. They were told, we're just going to exile, we're going to exodus, and establish a new homeworld. The techs are like, yeah, we're going to start building little ships based on the Humbles is on, and we're going to start insisting people have large families, especially men. We need to have a lot of men to form a military to then retake the homeworld. The scientists who came along with them, especially the tech scientists, were like, dude, no, we're not doing that. And the first old ones, as they were called, the old families, McGowan's, Kulaks, and Colts, are like, yeah, we're doing that. That was the plan the whole time. So the scientists are like, okay, whatever. They built the little ships, and they had a big celebration. It's like, yay, we have little ships. And the scientists one night just stole them all and took off to parts unknown. And they're like, what the actual fuck? So let's keep score here. First, the Agros betrayed the techs. Then the Norqua betrayed the techs. And now their fellow techs have betrayed the techs. The techs are a very angry people from this point on. Not jingoistic anymore, just fed up. They're fed up with everything. They're fed up with the people who bailed on them. This was the first utterance of the term bailer. This is the racial slur on Hazaya. This will start a bar fight even today. If a tech says that word unacademically, it is always considered derogatory. Because it's not an attack on race, necessarily. Although the different races of Panjian did come from the Bailers, It's an attack on mindset. You agreed to live under tech law. You agreed not to screw us over. Think of Scorpion riding the fox's back across the river. And what did you do? You bailed on us. You have no integrity. You have no honor. You cannot be trusted. You're the enemy. And that's pretty much for a long time how Tech saw every other Panjian on Hizaya. You are not Tech. You did not go down with the ship. You did not suffer the betrayal that we did. You were the cause of the betrayal. So you're our enemy. It doesn't matter what you actually think about us. You could actually like the text. It doesn't matter. You're the enemy if you're a Baylor. It took a very long time, hundreds of years, for the techs to let go of that hate. And to this day, you'll still encounter a tech who will slur you, calling you Baylor. Like, it's going. Nowadays, it's more free, especially when you use it on off-worlders that display that behavior. They will literally call a Tauren, say, dude, you act like a Baylor. Like, it's become so part of their culture to use as a slur that it even, because it is ideological, it is about betrayal and sycophancy, that it applies universally. Like, everyone's a Baylor. That's not tech. And that's one of the driving forces behind cultural interaction from now on with the techs. They're going to be very standoffish. They're not going to trust anything any other race on this planet says, because we trusted them once and they screwed us. Why would we give them the opportunity to screw us again? Yeah. So, hatred aside, the techs are not just going to sit there going, gosh darn it, I really wish we didn't, lie to the scientists and have them, take the little ships. If you're wondering about the continuity error of the little ships, they use a different type of fusion, whereas the Humble uses a different type of fuel. So the little ships use hydrogen, which you can get anywhere. You can get that by hydrolyzing water, and also other chemical processes I'm not quite familiar with, but know about just superficially. Whereas the reactor aboard the Humble, it uses a more refined fuel that cannot be created on a primitive, Dr. Stone-like environment where we're working back from year zero. That being said, one titular thing that happened during this period, this period of great betrayal, this dark age is what they refer to it as, because not a lot of stuff got written down because they were too busy doing more important things like building starships. Anything they would have written down would have been on computer tablets or smartphones they would have brought with them, or equivalent thereof. And those, of course, would have been taken with them. There was an Eeper by occupation. This is during a time when they were still using, guns with limited ammo, who came back to his little hut and found that his wife was sleeping with another dude. So he murdered the dude with the gun he is issued as an Eeper. He was dragged out in the middle of town, called a murderer. It was rightly so. And they had not established any type of justice system at this point. It still basically was captain's rules, and the ship belongs to Gawain the Great and is sort of co-executive officered by the other two old families, the Kuliks and the Kolks. So they're like, hey, what are we going to do with this guy? He murdered his wife's lover in cold blood using the gun issued to him to be an Eeper. Gawain's like, all right. We just created our first little ship. First ship, based upon the Humble Sazan. Mr. Eeper, you're going to get in that ship, and you're going to explore the next solar system, because we believe there's an intelligent species there for various reasons. If you make first contact, we will consider your payment, your punishment due is paid back in service. In other words, because you potentially run the risk of, again, daily Earthster still, being murdered on sight, being an alien, making first contact, because of the danger involved, we'll let you come back. You'll be a free man. And, of course, if you don't come back and the people there murder you, well, you were a murderer anyway. We're going to hang you regardless. So, yeah, it basically exile to alien planet or get executed for murder. Ypres was like, I think I'll go to the alien planet with a little ship. So, once he's in orbit, he totally goes in opposite direction, thinking that, haha, I can escape now. He tries going to Taran. The problem is that the computer is locked out, and it's not going to let him go anywhere but the predestined star that he was supposed to go to, because the techs are not stupid. Ypres lands on this other planet. Now, again, then this is all legend and allegory at this point, because, again, this is a Dark Age period where it's not fully written down. It's alluded to and writings handed down through handwritten books and just word of mouth. We're going to have to switch over to the Drophy. The Drophy are a titular antagonist to the Panjians in the future. However, this is technically their first contact with them. This convicted murderer / ambassador, Ypres. He lands, and he meets the Drophy. The Drophy are cat-like people. Think like the Tabaxi from D&D, or the Khajiit. They're very much in a late Bronze Age period. So think like late Roman Empire. Very religious. Their religion is very, very, very punitive, very, very strict. They crucify heretics. They burn them, torture them. So, of course, this white-skinned, black-feathered space demon who just stepped out of a shiny egg with points coming out of it is immediately seen as a devil and is besieged by an angry crowd, which he whips out what the Drophy refer to as the fire hammer. It is a T-shaped object that spurts fire and shoots invisible arrows. That is exactly how the Drophy scribes described the fire hammer. He is, of course, referring to a small submachine pistol. Because, again, the techs are not stupid. It's like, we're going to give you a fighting chance, dude. But only like a couple of clips and like an Uzi. That's all you get. Hell, Ash only had a boomstick. And he was able to control a whole crowd full of medieval people. But, so that first contact did not go well. Eventually people in the crowd would come up to him in his weird little ship. And they would try asking questions. And the translation matrix that the ship had was really bad. It wasn't very good at discerning new languages. So they pointed to a sign above the door of his ship. And in their language, it says Zanaz. Z-A-N-A-Z. Backwards and forwards. And they're like, what is Zanaz? And he said something in Panjian that's kind of akin to, it means entryway or door or exit. It could be both ways. That's why it's written backwards. It could be backwards and forwards. And they're like, oh, so you are Xanos. It's like, you're like, no. It's like, but you came here in a sky ship called Xanos. It's like, no, it's not. Doesn't really have a name. It's more ship built. So a handful of like Drophy villagers, and these people were kind of fringe in their own culture to begin with. They were beggars, people who were diseased, had like mange. Yeah, people that society didn't care if they talked to the space demon or not. It's like we already didn't like them anyway. And over time, they got kind of the full story. Is that I was given the opportunity to either go to prison or be executed or come here and talk to you guys. And they're like, well, what, why do you want to meet us? And they're like, well, I just want to say hi to the neighborhood, I guess, basically. Just see what the prospects are here. And the problem is that the techs did not give him enough fuel to get back home. And some people said they did that on purpose. Uh, Eper certainly believed it was done on purpose. It could simply just be that in the hustle, when the crowd was like pushing on the ship, that some of the fuel got vented. It's like I said, yeah, they were all surrounding him, all up in his junk, just pushing on the ship, like almost like trying to like lift it up and throw it back in the sky, like get out of here. And that's when he whipped out the fire hammer, and it's like back off. So he flew his little ship onto the top of a mountain nearby, and he basically lived in a cave the rest of his life. Sometimes people would come up to him and offer him gifts for his wisdom. Over time, he learned to speak Drawfee. And the later in his life is when he started having people who were like scribes and sort of just general people who were interested in him, in his story and where he came from. And of course, none of them believed that he was actually a demon. They think that he was just a traveler from the stars, and that the church is the one who labeled him a demon, and basically to get the townsfolk to turn against him. Because they didn't want him there, basically. He's like, you're a fly in the ointment. You're the monkey wrench in the works. Like, you're going to screw up our whole thing we're doing here. So, he basically lived out the rest of his life in that little cave on top of the mountain. Since then, that mountain has been forbidden. The church, the local church there is like, you can't go there. No one can go there. If you go there, we'll kill you. They're like, okay. So for 2,000 years, his remains just basically was preserved in this little frosty cave on top of this mountain, along with his ship. Eventually, the glacier on the mountain would cover up the ship and sort of hide it. But after making a dubious first contact from the reverse angle, the Drawfee Imperium going out to space and trying to colonize Hazaya unsuccessfully, the Panjians were like, look, we know that you know that we sent an envoy to your planet 2,000 years ago. And the Drawfee are like, that never happened. Yeah. Techs are like, we want his remains back. Because even though he was a convicted criminal, he's still one of us. And they're like, see, but if we do that, then we'll be admitting that we were lying to everyone this whole time that he even existed in the first place. Yeah, and that's your little brief introduction to the Drawfee. They're like the ancient ones, but bad with money. The Drawfee Imperium is absolute cluster. It is a, how would I put this? I wrote this down one time. It's like a German compound word. They are a heraldic, imperial, corporatist monarchy that is Mussolini-style fascistically against the people, and that is a lucrative merger of corporation and state. They also have a theocracy, which is like a weird second brain making random decisions for the Imperium. So again, imagine if the medieval Catholic Church, the Inquisition era church, and the Roman Empire, and the East India Trading Company were all the same government. Just let that chaos tornado just sink in for a second. Yeah, it would be really bad for everyone. Everyone would have a really bad time, except for the people in charge. They'd have a great time. They always do. One of my favorite random lines from a movie, I cannot remember what the hell the name of the movie was, or even what it's about. But one of the bad guys had an awesome one-liner. The antagonist came up and said, "I hope I didn't ruin your day." And the bad guy turns to him and says, "You're not capable of ruining my day, sir." It's like, I have a good day regardless of what you're doing. But I cannot remember the name of that movie or even who the actors were. But I always like that quote. It's like, you're just not even on the level of capable of ruining my day. But back to the Azayan homeworld. So they have a Dark Age period where, like I said, things were written down, but it was digital, and it was taken with the people who left. Um, the Tech started building a large city-state. And Techs being Techs, they want to start a republic again. So it's all, all the same, same crap, different location. Okay. The problem is that a lot of the safeguards that they put into their planetary senate to keep out corruption were sort of skimmed off as being deemed unnecessary. They were kind of necessary. One of the things was term limits. Another thing was laws against lobbying. Uh, yeah, again, don't want to say it's not topical, but it is a reoccurring problem with republics. They have a really bad tendency to go absolutely batshit crazy at any random moment. Think like a lot of South American republics. It's like all of a sudden there's a dictator. How the fuck did that happen? We don't know. Anyway, so it was called the First Republic, and it was a speed run of all the things you shouldn't do when establishing a government. There was heavy nepotism. All of the first old families had a son or a daughter that was a representative. So it's basically like an oligarchical monarchy at that point, which, spoiler, that's coming. Um, People were selling their seats when they retired. There was just massive corruption from special interests. And it got to where the government was acting not as a representative of the people, but as a representative of itself, an autocracy. And the techs are like, you know what, screw this. We're going to hit the reset button. So there was a night of long knives where basically constituents hunted down their own representatives in the street and stabbed them to death. Very Romanesque. But they did that because they just got so sick of being ignored by these people. And again, there's no term limits. So the same group of brain-dead morons who would keep voting for them would keep them in power. And the plurality of people who wanted a significant change or just, stop being so damn corrupt were being ignored because they could be, because it's essentially a baked-in autocracy at that point. So long as you have a certain percentage of your constituents who will always vote for you regardless, and they're not forced an alternative because of term limits, gravy train can keep on going. Right over you, the constituent. Just run a train right over the constituents. A train that hauls gravy. Not that other kind. So, the people got together, and they're like, you know what? We really like the old families. They were trustworthy. They may have done some harebrained shit, Gallon, but they got us here safe, and they always have our best interests at heart. Ignoring the fact they were going to sacrifice all of your children for a war to regain the homeworld. That never happened. Literally, never happened. So they decide, what if, temporarily, we form a triarchy or a triumvirate type of government with the old families, the McGowans, the Kuliks, the Kolks. And here's the thing. It's still technically a democracy in that we can give them a sort of black spot of death, like a pirate captain, and vote them out. And then they'll be replaced by their heir. And if someone can still challenge the king in sort of a tourney-style system, barbaric though it may be, and technically identity theft through murder, we can keep the riffraff out, basically. The weirdos. The Caligulas. We can get rid of them. There's a process in place to eject a bad ruler. And because it is a triarchy, all three kings are equal and have to agree on something. So it's sort of like a jury or an oligarchy. You basically have two other heads to run this idea past, and if they both say, nah, it's not happening, it dies there. So, they formed the first triarchy. And the triarchy ruled the Tech Nation for almost 1,000 years. By force! Of course, because the first thing the triarchy did was establish a standing army. Who does that army answer to? It answers to the triarchy. Specifically, the McGowans. That's their purview. They are in charge of the military and the courts. Each king has their own purview. That way, no one king is overstressed by doing everything themselves. The Kulks are the bureaucracy and the bankers. They control the banks, the money, all certifications, all licenses, everything that legitimizes your existence in the Tech Nation is run through the Kulks. And the Kulaks, they're the friendly face. They're the liberal. They're the liberal of the group. They're civil and they're nice. And they're pleasant until you defame them publicly and they make you disappear. Yeah, the Triarchy are not the good guys. They never claimed to be the good guys. That's the thing. The Triarchy themselves, the heirs of the Triarchy, literally say, you wanted this. Like, you wanted a more streamlined government. This is what you got. And for better or worse, they got it. They got it. For 1,000 years, they got it. And for the most part, it's doing all right. But I think I'm going to keep it there because I've gone now, as quickly as I didn't realize it would go this quickly, into 2 books so far. Actually 3, technically, because we went past the first book, which was the establishment of the lore of the world, the first contact with the Ancient Ones, the uprising that resulted in them going from planet to planet like star gypsies, essentially, being told, no, F off, we'll be punished if we help you. The Norqua revolting and then turning themselves into the Bailers, and then finally the scientists of the Tech Nation bailing as well, thus resulting in a group of very, very, very angry techs who made some very bad political decisions, and now they're being ruled by an iron fist of the Triarchy. It's not as bleak as it sounds. It sounds really bad, but it's like if you ask the average tech who lived in the Triarchy, you see that in Revenge of the Forsaken. Actually, let me go back to this mode. Sorry. Alright. Revenge of the Forsaken. Let me go in there. Alright, so let me just give you the... Revenge of the Forsaken is a graphic novel series based on a metafictional autobiography of Ranger Enforcer Cora Henchild I. A farm girl intentionally left for dead by her demented father in the dangerous western woods. Remember, Eeps rule the woods at night. Remember the Eeps. Still there. Still deadly, even to this day. Even to this day, with advanced technology. You don't go in the woods alone. Not on Haziah. One day, she will hunt down and make an example of her monstrous father. One day, the Forsaken will have their revenge. Now, it's important to point out, if you Google Revenge of the Forsaken, there is The Revenge of the Forsaken, which is another dark fantasy novel. I have nothing to do with that. I'm just gonna be gracious and go ahead and say it's a great series. Never read it. Don't know anything other than it exists. But that is a pratfall you're going to come across if you Google for Revenge of the Forsaken. I have direct links down in the description for everything, but they're not active yet because I haven't been streaming long enough to earn that privilege. And it's either that or give YouTube a copy of my license for some reason to prove I'm not a grifter, even though I've had this account since 2007. Anyway. But Revenge of the Forsaken takes place under the Triarchal era, about towards 2/3 of the way towards the end, and it is a fish out of water story from Cora's perspective. Everything is from Cora's perspective, And she meets all of these historical characters that in universe are actual historical figures. She meets the Triarchy, she meets Ranger Enforcers of various, infamy. A Ranger Enforcer, by the way, is essentially a state-sponsored headhunter. They are the left arm, the left hand of the Triarchy. These are the guys the Triarchy sends to make an example out of you. For the most part, they hunt outlaws. The next neighboring city-state, Tetrick in the Commonwealth, um, actually, they might have. Yes, Volume 1. Again, I need to combine. Oh, that's The Revenge of the Forsaken, and it's a book series by Akira Knightley. Don't know anything about it. I assume it's good, but that is not my book. Did not make this. This crappy one right here that looks self-made. Yeah, that's mine. See, that has a good cover, so obviously didn't do that. Come on. And give me the be a sample. Yes. All right. So important. This overlay is basically a watermark for Amazon's purposes. I actually make my own cover, and that's what the actual cover. And that's what an eep right there. You see it? Looking. All right. Here we go. Yes. There we go. This is the layout. So this would be the western side of Ulysses. You can see the grid pattern stops. There's Merchants Highway that goes from Tetrick to Ulysses. Tetrick and Ulysses are actually very close together. Think like New Jersey and like New York. They're separate states, but they're right up against each other. And the abutment is that center lawn through the western woods. Now, I have some things marked here that don't make sense to you yet because you've not read Forsaken. Um, Up there is Mount Zerid. Again, it was sort of like a Mount Fuji overlooking Ulysses. By this time, Ulysses has become a city of like several million people. It's growing. It's growing exponentially, like every single generation. Eventually, it overtakes other townships, and they become like boroughs. Sort of like in New York, you have like Brooklyn, Red Hook. Yeah. Eventually, originally they were all little townships surrounding uh, the the actual like center of New York, and then the city like overtook them. So I may be misrepresenting New York history. I'm sure some New York historians like that's not what happened. Shut up. And I'm like, well, that's what happened here, basically. The trucks, um, you will be definitely meeting them in this book series. They are very, very nice people. Let's put it this way: as much as the techs hate Baylors, if you ask the average tech, even in this time period, what do you think of the trucks? They'll be like, most of them are all right. They're tolerable. Yeah. So you have to be super nice when your neighbor already hates you for existing, and they're heavily armed. Yeah, but that's not to say trucks aren't equally armed themselves. It's just they're less likely to use violence. They're more likely to use diplomacy, or especially trade. They're very capitalist, which the texts, remembering how the ancient ones were, the Novasani, it's like, I guess it's okay as long as you're not, trying to undermine people with your capitalism, basically. Whereas the texts are not like socialist or communist or anything. They do have like an economic system, but what they do is they believe in economic charters, which is basically like sort of like a constitution. It's a framework by which a company won't do certain things. Like numero uno on every tech business charter is do not do unpatriotic things. Yeah, do not fund the tech nation's enemies. Do not do business with them. Like, yeah, so they're sort of like social capitalists in that sense. They only do believe in doing business with people who are ideologically similar to them, which the Trox, for the most part, are. The problem is the Trox are not very serious, I would say. The Techs are very like samurai culture. They're very demure. They're very stoic. Very militaristic. The Trox are more like the Cockney or the Irish. It's like I am ethnically Irish myself, obviously, dang. But it's like I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I'm saying you know what I'm talking about. It's like uh, the texts are like it needs to be done right now. Get it done. The trucks are like we can wait till tomorrow. It's raining right now. I don't want to get wet. It's not to say they won't eventually get it done. They're just not going to do it immediately. But this is basically the setup for going into Revenge of the Forsaken. Basically, they had to start from year zero. Their ship is broken. They can't leave. What's interesting is when they start interacting with other Baylor races as the techs create, transportation systems that can get them there. They start trying to like reconnect with these people on like a diplomatic level, or even just like as I wouldn't say like a human level because they're not really human, but it's like, hey, it's been a 1,000 years. What's going on with you? And so they meet the Norks, who are descendants of the Norqua. They don't believe the humble exists. They literally believe that they floated down on clouds, like riding the Nimbus, and that they are the children of the gods, and that they are all divinely holy. And the attacks are like, so you've gone insane. I see. Yes. So they had a massive war on several occasions, which won't be getting into because that's later in PGH. But that essentially gets you to where you need to know anything about Revenge of the Forsaken. Is that you start out with Cora, who is a poor Trock farm girl. Trock, of course, means they mimic the Trockazion, which are more eagle-like, so they have more like metallic colored eyes, say like orange or yellow. You can't see it because it's ink work. And the fourth one, I started coloring them in using digital-only art. I know people hate digital-only art, but it's just so much easier to work with versus having to like scan in these graphic novel blanks. And it never looks good because of smearing and focus and all that stuff. But you're at a place now, I think, that you could jump into Revenge of the Forsaken and reasonably understand what's going on in Lorelboz. So that you're not constantly going like, what the hell is this? What does this mean? It's not Egyptian hieroglyphs anymore. It's like Pig Latin. So you can kind of understand it. Time for my sales pitch. I am selling Revenge of the Forsaken at $350. I also have links to my Cash App and my PayPal below. Um, everything given to me will just be considered a tip or a donation. Basically, if you want me to do any type of custom with anything for you, I can still do that, but you're gonna have to like get a hold of me like through probably Facebook. I'm trying to get rid of a lot of my social medias because all of them are branded still Cool Toys for Bad Boys. And as I was told by my friends earlier, don't talk about Etsy. Don't talk about Etsy. But everything is still linked to that. So I had to like purge all of my socials, and I'm slowly trying to figure out which ones to keep and which ones were productive. But like I said, all of those are for sale. Um, go back to mine. There we go. And the second one is where it starts getting really juicy because as you can see, hold on, give me a sample. Now, I'm not going to show everything. That's Cora. That's after she's been adopted by Ranger Enforcers and gotten a decent set of clothes and riding jacket. That's the Humble. Can't really see it. It's really far away, but that's how it landed. And now it's got vines, and those are Hazions, Mega Raptors. So that gives you some scale. So it's got a 3-forked drive section. It's got a little agro bay to grow food. And then it had a massive, like, round nose that's now deep in the dirt. And that's the door that got blasted off and made sort of a gangplank. And those are vines going up to where the center drive section has like a concave area that has become a little swamp because of rainwater. And exploring the ship is damn near impossible because everything's 90 degrees tilted, almost. So to get to the bridge, you'd have to spelunk down with ropes. So very treacherous, very dangerous. So all they can really go do is once every couple of years go out here and cut the vines down to keep it from being crushed over time. And that's what they're doing and why they're going out there. But also, the king here, King Gawain II, he's a direct descendant of Gawain the Great, uh, just asked Korra randomly, how did we all get here? Because he's very interested to know what different Baylor civilizations have lore-wise as to how we came to be. And she said, oh, we are just like humanoid versions of the Hazians, right? Like we evolved here, we've always been here, right? And the king's like, no, Korra. We're from another galaxy. We came here on a big starship called the Humble. We are all shapeshifters stuck halfway, mimicking the Hazaya. And she's like, you don't want to be rude to a Triarch, especially, but it's like, bullshit? It's like, and so the king is like, well, I'm about to go out there and clear the vines away from it, as we do every couple of years. You quest to the Humble. See it yourself. And that's what they're doing in this book, is they're learning the truth about where Panjians come from. And there are a lot of Baylor races, because of lack of contact with the Techs, not that the Techs would want to talk to them for various reasons anyway, have their own crazy genesis story of how Panjians came to be on this planet. And of course, some more grandiose than others. Like the Norks, they literally believe that they are like star children, that they're part god or something. The Trocs, for the most part, if you ask an educated Troc, where do we come from? It's like, oh, we're from another galaxy. Like, we hitched a ride with you guys. It's like, they know about the Humble. They believe it, but it's like the Disney version. It's like, yeah, some bad stuff happened on the home world, and we had to leave, and you guys offered us a ride. We said, yeah, so now we're all here. And we're all friends. The Techs are like, I think you missed a few points there. All right. So it is currently 8:30. Oh, I wanted to cover an actual review on my book from a real person, I believe. Whoa. Where is it? There it is. Now, 8th Fleet Journal, do not read it, because it's just as badly written as PGH. It's episodic, because it's a journal, and I think that completely threw this guy for a loop. Yes, I did make the cover myself. That's why it looks like crap. It's supposed to be a visualization of a gravitational anomaly detector readout, which is their version of radar in the future. Basically, in order to see a warp or hyperjump capable ship, they always produce, because of grav plating, a little bit of distortion in space-time. Well, with a GAD unit, you can see that up to, say, 300 kilometers away. Some are more powerful, can see like a whole solar system at play. Sort of think of it like AWACS. That is how starships target other starships. And it specifically is just starships, because space rocks don't displace gravity like that, not artificially. And you can see if you look at the oscilloscope version, it's like that. It isn't a slow, sloping droop in space-time like a planet would make. Starships have a very sharp angle of their gravimetrics because it's artificial. Just like you can tell artificial radio waves from naturally occurring ones because of how clean and crisp and clear their oscilloscope diagram is. That's why we say, if we're looking for aliens, we can tell the difference between something they're sending deliberately versus, say, the random noise the gas giants make on the electromagnetic spectrum, is because the artificial ones. Sorry. Definitely need to remember to drink more. I'm going to be talking this long. But let's get to Here it is. Here it is. Oh my god, actual criticism. I love this. Here on Amazon, you are absolutely spoiled for choice when it comes to science fiction novels. Yes, you are. It's kind of a slog, and I'm sorry to contribute to that. From the currently popular Expanse novels to the first Kindle book I ever purchased, A Fire Upon the Deep. Never read it. Never ever. Every classic award-winning novel here. See, this guy's an aficionado. Like, I can tell this dude loves sci-fi. So my weird ass Spaceballs meets Warhammer 40k is not going to appeal to him at all. It's like, I think this is just a different. It reminds me of the Monty Python skit of you stuffy nosed malodorous pervert. It's like, I'm sorry, I came in here for an argument. Oh, I'm sorry, this is abuse. This is what my takeaway from this is, that it is genre shock because I kind of misrepresent the tone of Eighth Fleet because it's a little more tongue in cheek. I'll explain why after we go over this. Devil's Belt. That being said, as a subscriber to Kindle Unlimited, all of my books are on Kindle Unlimited because I want to be out there. I don't necessarily care about making money. I want this story to get out there. Well, I can't say any book I've read on Kindle Unlimited has been a modern classic. The majority of them have been solidly entertaining. Ben Stewart, Elliot Kay, both write exciting and competent series focused on and around space combat, while Stephen Campbell and I don't think I've read Stephen Campbell once before. Write more comedic sci-fi that isn't completely silly. Honestly, in writing the review of this book, I'm only 2% done, and I'm reminded of books I've very much enjoyed. I'm reminded of books I've very much enjoyed reading. Books, in fact, I'd rather be reading. So, basically saying this is derivative, and I don't like it. And I'm like, that's fine. I've wasted a lot of words on this preamble, but here's my review. The book is bad. I tell you the book is bad because it's badly written. But here's the thing. Here's when he says it reminds me of other books I'd have very much enjoyed reading. What that tells me is the bones are there. He likes the bones of the premise and the world, but the way it was presented was so bad he didn't want to keep reading it. And that is the problem. That's why I'm live streaming this. Because when I tell people about my sci-fi novel, they're interested. Even though I have a bunch of ramblings. When I put it in any other form, it fails horribly. So, one of two things is happening here. Either I'm literally using my incredible X factor as an entertainer and storyteller to drag this out of the dirt and make you like it? No, not like that. Or it is a good story, it's just badly written and presented. Which is exactly the same criticism I've had of my own series. That's why I haven't been working on it as much, is because I'm sort of stuck in this infinite rock and a hard place of I either need to write it as though someone else wrote it, and then it wouldn't feel like my work, or I need to find a way to present it differently to people in a way that they will find likable. Here we go. The work itself, admittedly, from what little I've seen, is at best described as juvenile. Okay. Let's go back to Eighth Fleet. The description. Let me give the description. Okay. Here's the problem. And I think this is my fault for misrepresenting the tone of Eighth Fleet Journal. Based upon the novel Panjian Galactic History. Same universe, it's just modern times. So there's spacefaring again. It's Star Wars, Star Trek levels technology again. The series of books follows the everyday adventures of super soldier Alan Doc McGowan. Yes, another insert character. Bite me. As he reveals some facts that didn't make it into the news. The book has been faithfully translated from Panjian into English. And that's a running joke in Eighth Fleet, is that there's a translation team that has fore and afterwords. because this is a translation from Panjian of his war journal into a novel. And so the editorial team will receive angry letters from Doc explaining that you completely murdered the tone of this by mistranslating it. And that's an ongoing joke throughout the series. But I can totally understand why someone who is a hardcore sci-fi aficionado would see that as a lame meta joke. Totally get it. Uh, we enjoy his dark and eye-opening look at the inner workings of the Panjian Alliance. The Panjian Alliance is an alliance that formed against the Drawfi Imperium. Again, we talked about them. At this stage, they're like Roman era, and the Pangeans are like starting at year one, so Dr. Stone. Drawfi have a little bit of a technological advantage. They meet the Pangeans first, and then they come back to meet the Pangeans. And it didn't go well in either direction. So the Pangeans are like, you know what, we're not going to be displaced again. It's real easy to just say, we're just going to, everything for the 2,000 years we've built on this planet, everything we've done on this planet, we're just going to pull up tent stakes and leave? No. No, we're going to fight the fucking space furries. And we're going to get a bunch of other intelligent species that we know exist that we didn't make contact with earlier to help us. Because by now, they should be advanced enough to help us. And what do you know? They were, and they did. And they formed an alliance against the Drawfi Imperium. And the Drawfi were like, I guess I'll go over there then. So they literally stopped the expansion of the Empire and forced them to go around the Panjian Alliance. But here's the problem. The humor in 8th Fleet Journal is more akin to like Spaceballs. It's not really meant to be super serious all the time. You also have to remember that you have a super soldier who is in the military dictating what happened to you. And I tried having, before Fat Electrician was a thing on YouTube, that type of vibe of like a crusty veteran telling you what the fuck happened. And it didn't come off that way at all. It came off more like, dude, you won't believe what happened today. It became more of like a weird vlog with like a Darth Vader ripoff than anything closer to what I would imagine in the first place. So it failed miserably on all fronts, tone-wise. But, that being said, what am I working on now? Do you guys remember the show Code Monkeys? It was a parody of the gaming industry in the late 80s, before the Atari crash. In fact, it covered the Atari crash over E.T. the game. But it was 8-bit style animation and really well written and really good satire of gaming in general, like early gaming. These characters presented in 8th Fleet and PGH set up for my new graphic novel series, which is a comic. It's not a graphic novel, it's a comic, and it is a parody. It's called Get Good. Spelled G-I-T, G-U-D. The gaming thing. It is about how the Panjian military finds and weaponizes gamers who are specifically into hardcore flight sims to be drone pilots for the Navy. And hilarity ensues because you have gamer culture clashing with traditional military culture. And you have baked in racism from my own universe because of the whole Baylor thing I just explained earlier. It's fun. It's really fun writing this. I have so much fun writing it. I can't show it until it's ready. It's almost ready. I have the first edition. It is going to be full color. It is going to be in the pixel art style. And it is going to be tongue-in-cheek, but it's still going to be set in the 8th Fleet universe. And Doc is sort of like a guru character for the titular Voodoo Squadron. That's the first squadron of gamers they try to make into fighter pilots, essentially. They are the main characters. By just by displacing Doc as the main character, I feel as though it softens him and makes it less about him and more about these fish out of water characters. More like Revenge of the Forsaken. You are experiencing what these four individuals are experiencing, and so it becomes more relatable. It's less like Doc staring into a camera like I'm doing, explaining what the hell happened earlier and why it's stupid, and more of an adventure, more of a classic storytelling narrative. But it also makes gamer references like uh, Code Monkeys did. It also makes references to Revenge of the Forsaken and PGH, referencing my own work in a meta fashion. So, that's what I'm working on right now. Um, to the guy who left the 1 rating on A3 Journal Volume 1, I appreciate that you read it, because he did say in here, I believe, that he actually did read it. I love that. A casual relationship with a linear chronology. It's a journal. It's going to jump months sometimes because nothing of consequence happens aboard the ship. Okay. I totally get where he's coming from, and I agree with his assessment. But I feel like a lot of this stuff was me misrepresenting the material. And I think that's the core aspect of this, is that I don't know how to sell this, and I don't know how to present it in a way other than this format of basically interactive story time with the author, of how to tell it to you. But yeah, it's getting to be 8:44. I think we started slightly after 6. My mouth is dry, and I feel like going on into Revenge of the Forsaken, but that's going to be another 3 hours. And I don't want to show you all of my artwork because I kind of want you to buy it, or at least tell someone who would be interested in buying it. I may change its bio, though, because it's talk about self-deprecating humor. Oh, God. Alright, born in Nashville, Tennessee, raised half in a rural town of Pegram, then in the inner city of Nashville, gives one a unique perspective on life. Growing up, I've been called a compulsive liar, borderline psychopath, but there is one thing I've never been accused of: telling a lame story. And that is absolutely true to this day. I have never been accused of telling a lame story. In person. I was told by teachers, friends, coworkers that I needed to write science fiction novels or at least short stories. I also do have short stories. I may be expanding VPBDS. What the hell is that? That is Vampire Pacification Bureau Delivery Service. It is a government service, innocuous, very, very, very innocuous, very low key, that delivers little bio boxes like that of blood to vampires to keep them from hunting us. Because as long as they're well fed, they're okay. And it is another sort of follows the main character story arc. Again, this is something that my mother goaded me into. It's like, write me something akin to Twilight. Write me your version of Twilight, because Twilight was super popular at that time. So I watched the Twilight movies, and then I started reading, doing some biology textbook reading on rabies and various diseases like that. And then I came out with this. So this is like my romantic vampire series. But again, it's more like Men in Black. It's more like a rom-com. But it's free on Kindle Unlimited if you want to give it a check. It's only I think it's only like 60 pages. It's like a novella. But it basically establishes the universe, introduces the main character, Fritz, who is fresh out of high school, looking for a job, can't find one. He wants to launch, get out of his parents' house, but he sees this random advertisement for this long-ass acronym, and it says, government job, good pay, uh, more information at interview. And it gives a number, an address number to go to. And so he goes there, and it's a big warehouse with like a little tiny office building, like built into it on one side. So he punches the doorbell, and he's like, yes. It's like, yeah, I'm here to apply for the job. And you hear it click open. He goes inside, and it's a long corridor full of UV fluorescent tubes, all top ceiling everywhere, like it's a giant suntan room. He's like, that's weird. Keeps going forward to another little door that enters into a cramped, small little interview room with another door that leads further into the building. He's told by intercom, wait here for your interviewer. Interviewer comes in, takes his background information, asks him, do you have any delivery experience? Then starts asking really weird questions like, do you believe in the supernatural? Do you believe in vampires? Werewolves? Anything of that nature? And of course, not wanting to seem like a fucking absolute lunatic, he says, no. No, who does? So the interviewer's like, okay. And then tells him to come back tomorrow. And next comes back tomorrow, and he's revealed what's behind the third door, which goes into the massive warehouse, where there are huge machines filling bags of blood like Capri Sun pouches and stuffing them in little boxes like that, little styrofoam, innocuous bio boxes. And then address labels adhered and then handed off to individuals who are put them in the back of panel vans or whatever vehicles they have, civilian vehicles, not marked, and go deliver blood to vampires. And thank you, most of you are probably thinking to yourself, that sounds really dangerous. But yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's a high turnover for that job. And that's part of the plot twist, basically, which I'm not going to reveal. All right. So, we're approaching 9 o'clock. Like I said, I've been doing this for 3 hours. I think I'm going to call this first successful live stream. Everyone watching, I appreciate you for staying. I hope I made some sort of sense. I'm going to try to stop the rambling, I swear. I have like a little like cheat sheet in front of me, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I've been glancing at it and not really following it. And mainly OBS has been fighting me every step of the way. So yeah. So Infinite Vortex, sorry. Duh. And I'm going to stop stream. And you all have a nice evening. Thank you for listening. I really will like to see you next Sunday. I may have a reaction stream Thursday. I don't know yet. Don't know yet. And that one will basically just be a shit post. It will just be me reacting to random things that are sent to me or suggested to me. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to look at my descriptions. Sorry, it's not a hyperlink that you can click on. I have not earned that right yet, according to YouTube. But you can always copy and paste into the URL. I know it's a pain in the ass. I'm sorry. But it does take me directly to each thing listed. So you don't have to search me out on Amazon. And again, if you'd like to leave a donation, I have my Cash App and PayPal. Everything's considered a donation and or a tip. Thanks. I'll see you possibly next Thursday, next Sunday.